And this is the reason that the Talmud Chacham needs to have a little bit of arrogance of spirit, is to be strong, which is Chelik Aleph Misamach Daled. It's 1/64th, because we said an eighth of an eighth, 8 times 8 is 64. So 1/8, a portion of 8 from an 8 means 1/64. He needs to have 1/64, but that's specifically 64 and not 63. In other words, if he has 63, that's too much. He needs a 63rd portion, that would be too much, only a 64th portion, an eighth of an eighth. 63 spells gas. Gas means grub, thick. That would be no good. Okay, we'll see. The reason why he needs to have the gas ruach, he explains over here, is because you have to care. If you want the Eibishter to be mamshich only to the place of kedusha, not to the chitzonim, so you have to therefore make sure that Hashem cares. Like we said before, the chesed of Abraham. If the chesed gets nimshach, if you don't care, if you don't have that gasus, then it goes to everywhere. You have the place? You're still looking for it. I'm trying to find it, so I'll tell you where the place is. It's the middle of Gimel, okay? The middle of Gimel. Before Dalet, almost by Dalet, a little bit before Dalet. A little bit before Dalet, between Gimel and Dalet, in the middle over there. That through the arousal of the below is also the arousal of above. It becomes exactly in that example. So in other words, our gasus ruach service to Hashem brings down from Hashem also such a level of gasus, so to speak, that which pushes away the chitzonim, because we say ruach aisi ruach ba'amshich ruach. The spirit brings a ruach and it draws down, which means it comes the same. This rusa de latata brings this rusa de leila. Hine this rusa de latata ze betamut chacham. So when the Talmud Chacham has this arousal of above, nasi sarusa de leila, this makes also an arousal of above. Lias lamaila gamkein bechinas geus v'his nasus b'kedushal yoino. But there should be this holiness and raising in the holy, supreme holiness. When there is holy, when there is raising, when there is geus in kedusha, then the chitzonim are not given any yenika. Through the fact that we find the level of gasu by the Talmud Chacham. The fact that he doesn't want to be separate, so it's that's considered to be a gasus because he has his interest in mind. He is an entity and he wants to be close. He doesn't want to be separated. So when you have that, likewise, above it also wakes up, arouses that madrega to be refusing and disgusted with the Rishonim. So they see I hate Esav and Mipnei Kigoy, because Hashem is go over the go. Hashem becomes removed. He becomes higher. He removes himself from the game, from those who are arrogant, those are the Rishonim. And why do we need that? Because if you don't have that level of gain, you give everybody. Avram, we said before, because he was the chesed, he was mamshechit, even to Yishmael. But you want the fish and mitzadar because the greatness. So what does he care? The shemamis, what does he care about Yishmael? You give everybody. That's mitzadar lechoshim. But the hainu davke. But this is only when he is not on the level of Mizgah, that is when we can say that he doesn't care. But when Hashem is Mizgah Misraimim, as I know ledagdik, so then Hashem pays attention, sort of is to be particular. That the light of the flow should not go to the Rishon. And even though it says Shmomis, so we say the spider is in the Heichel HaMelech, and the king doesn't care about it. That's only if the king doesn't care about it. But if the king says, no, I don't want the Shmomis there, we get rid of the Shmomis. When it's without any supervision. The great king doesn't pay attention, he doesn't supervise something which is so small as the shemamis, he doesn't care. But when he wants to supervise, then he's going to instruct it to clean it up, remove it from my room, remove my palace. Only when it comes to the level of Geis Visnasus, then he is particular the Klippas shouldn't receive. But when the Eibishter is not in the level of Visnasus, so everything before Hashem is like nothing. And it does not take up any place. And everybody is able to receive Kenal V'Dailamid. So, and this is also the pasuk says, Hashem Rama Yodcha Bal Yechazoin. This is a pasuk in Yeshaya that when Hashem Rama Yodcha, when your hands is raised, Bal Yechazoin, then they don't see. In other words, they don't get anything. The klippas when Hashem is Rama Yodcha. Pirush. Dav ke kasher Rama Yodecha. When your hand is raised, which means you are exalted, you have the level of Geus Goya, in a level of Azai, Bal Yechzoin. So then they don't see your Shomer Eloki, they don't get their Eloki. Because he removes it to them. Hashem supervises Shloi Kabu Gamhei. He makes sure that they shouldn't receive it. Just like the Shemamis, when the king says no, they don't get it. Rom al kol goyim Hashem. Hashem becomes exalted over the goyim. Hashem nase mehem. Rom u'misnase. Hashem becomes exalted and raised from them, so they shouldn't get lefishu goy davke kanal, because of the level of goy is davke is the goy. He stays away from them canal. That's specifically through the avodah sarusa de latata, when the yid, the Talmud Chacham has that shmini shebishmin is that 164th, and that brings about Aisi Ruach Milamayla. But this is all like the moitz, like the shad around the wheat. Eventually, when the wheat grows to the level that it should, so then it falls down, it goes away. So he says, in Dalet, this is the beginning of David. We say the pause before, but says levavei nemon lefonecho. Acha shenim to levavei nemon. Ein tzorich lizarus l'tata zois b'chinas agasus v'tayil beit. Seems like you're still looking at the place. You couldn't find it. Take a minute. But after you reach the higher level, then you don't need it anymore. Then it's like the moitz, it falls apart. So the reason, now he says, so why by Avraham there was Yishmael? Because he started off with Motzoses Levavin Amufanecha. He only had one heart, he had Bittul B'Metzias, and therefore the Hashpah went everywhere. There was no limitation, so it went everywhere. And the reason why by Avraham went also in the beginning, came out Yishmael, Lefisha Nimtza Levavoil Lemon, Gam Bas Cholas Avedose, because his heart, Motzoses Levavoil Lemon Lefanecha, was also in the beginning of the Avodah. In other words, he never had that Shemayna Shabishminis. He never had the Yesh, the Bittel, that level that is necessary, that Milmaila to push away. Then the flow went to someone who is not fitting. Because it's Kiloi. So therefore he doesn't care. Let Yishmael get too, because Yishmael, who cares about it? Doesn't take up any room. There's no Kigoy Goy, there's no Gaseruach. Aval Talmud Chochem tzorich liyos. But a Talmud Chochem has to have B'tchilas Avedos in the beginning of his sort of B'chinas Gasus. He needs to have in the beginning that level of Gasus. Gam b'meshem izbeinen. Ba'asogas elikis B'chinas Malu Seif. Also, when he reflects, meditates, understanding godly, Ba'asogas elikus, level Mamalei and Seviv, Umachma Zem Ispal V'Abav Yirachulu, and he becomes excited with the love and the fear of Hashem, that's called Gasus. Reflecting about Hashem, but that's called Gasus. Gam Zen Echshe B'chinas Yesh V'Dover. That is also called a Yesh V'Dover, and the reason is because Ki Yesh Mishamasi, because he is a Yesh, he's an entity that understands. And he thinks, oh, I understand, this is considered like something. There is no thought and grasping that can grasp the atzmus of Lakus, because Hashem is a higher Mal and Seviv, is beyond any Ishtalshus. Even this level of reflection, tofel besoif. At the end, this is considered secondary. All the Avaviyira that is created through his being an entity, being excited in Hashem, that becomes like the moitz, that's secondary. At the end, once he is complete in the greatness of his voida, the zocho, the dovek, the atzmus, and the sof shel mailo mihashtalshelus, when he merits and he connected the essence of the muhusav enisov, which is higher than shtalshelus. So this would be considered in his eyes, that level of Avaviyira that he had through being a understanding and in Mamalun Sevi is considered like Moitz Teven relative to Dikah. So Kach Kol HaTaimim Shahoyulei Ba'asogas V'Yizbernus Kol Yimei Avodah Ba'Avaviyira B'Tchilasoi. All the reasons that he had in the beginning when he reflected during the days of service to Hashem with fear, with love and fear in the beginning, they're only like secondary relative to the main. Because once you come to Atzmus and Sof, all the reasons that you have because you love Hashem, you fear Hashem, Hashem is Mamala Seviv, Relative to Atzmusay, they have no value. That chulu, that there is nothing in the Shemayim and the Oretz that can satisfy you. Hey. Now we'll explain the example of the moitz, which surrounds the wheat. Just as the moitz guards the wheat from the heat and from the moisture. So is the example in the godly spark, which is called the wheat. That godly spark has been sown in the ground, in the world, and it grows from below. So we grow that godly spark that is in the world, grows from below. However, but the light would have been destroyed and lost because the great heat, the moisturized tanugim chitzonim, in the additions, the extras of the pleasures that are external, that heat and that excitement in the taibus, in the extra external pleasures. It's either they are the heat of the taibur or similar to that, or because of the much of the coldness, lots of coldness. Well, that would be that'd be like laziness. That would be similar to the rotting of the seed, like we said. That too much moisture is cold, and then it rots away. So it either rots away because of the coldness of the moisture, or it gets burnt up with the taivus and the heat. They all disrupt the chita. So we need the moitz to protect them. Through the level of moitz that is sustained, and it grows, and it grows and it increases the level of love and fear without anybody stopping it. How is that? That's through the thickness and the raising, the gas ruach that the person has at the beginning, that he doesn't want to be separated. And that is like the rotting, that level of isnasus is like, that's the moitz that protects them and that absorbs. He said before, the moitz absorbs all the rot and the fire, it all gets rotted away inside of that gasus. The gasus sevelas kol mashiyes benefesh habahamis. That gasus tolerates everything that the nefesh habahamis has. Whether it's the heat or the moisture, whatever the nefesh habahamis dishes out, that's the gasus. The gasus takes that. That's the moit that takes all that. And because the gasus takes care of that, the light of the godly spark keeps on going and growing and increasing constantly with love and fear, until it grows in its completeness. This is the increase, like the amoshul for the Bnei Yisrael as they were going out of Mitzrayim, but they keep on growing like the tzemach hasoda and batim tigluchulu. So you keep on growing until you come to the wholesomeness, to the complete. And after it's completed, so then the moitz gets thrown away. And then you can have the 10th, as we say, the asiri, to be kodesh, It's after the complete of the growth, then you can reach the higher level. That when you reach the claims of Megilas, that's the Maaseh, then you are cleaving to the essence of Hashem. And all the reason and all the grasping that were protecting the fruit, that was the gasus, that the reasoning that you gave yourself. They are subjugated, they are nullified, and they fall away. Now you have the idea of your levav is nemon. Your heart is truthful, no reasoning, no hasagas, little mitzvahs. So this is the way the asirus of the lutata mermat l'mayla. Okay, mermayla l'mato. Same thing is bisarus of the lutata elo hanim shechokach. This example is also the same way as the amshocha comes down. Basically, when the amshocha comes down l'mayla, it also needs a protection. It needs a moitz to protect the hamshocha from godliness, that it shouldn't get away to other places. First, the isarusa de la'ela becomes in a way of haughtiness and raising, and that's called moitz tavan l'mayla. The moitz tavan l'mayla, that's the shad and the straw above, so that the light should not rot and be destroyed by the heat. How would it be? That would be from the klippos. And why? Since Hashem is exalted, so he doesn't care about it. No. Over here we're talking about the Shurama, because Hashem's Geus, it doesn't allow for them to get it. After it grows 18 omen, this is a concept in Kabbalah that it grows on Yochid Chei Ha'olamim. The level Chei is 18. So that's the level of the growth of the shear, the Chita grows, the level of the 18 omen. You don't need any more that Moizu Teven. And the Kol Zman, however, as long as there's Nimra Hakri, there's not, then it's part of the Maisa, because only with Mavin you need to have the protected level of the Ohr Hamshocha, that it should only go down in the Kedusha. The Tzamud Chacham Tzorich is by Gasus, Shmini Shebishmini. It needs to have a Shmini Eitaveit, Hu Chelik Samach Dal, Veloy Chelik Samach Gimel. It needs to be 1/64th, but not a 63rd. V'hu Gas, that would be Gas. Gas would be grub, that would be thickness, not. But yet, 1/64 it needs. Achav Bikain, the Chelik Samach Dal, Yesh B'min HaGasus. He has from the Gasus, he has in the 64th portion. No, Ma'atra Lake Sosa Vishabalto. It decorates him, surrounds him like a sosa, like the moitz to the Shabbat. Pirush Ma'atra Lake. What does it mean that it surrounds him? It means Ba'atora de Geus. It gives him a crown of holding his nasus. And that way he protects himself from anything bad. And he keeps on growing. Okay, same thing from above. And then, okay, let's leave it over here.